What's up, guys? Alright, so I've got ever so small changes to my Plume Monarch build, but this is frankly, I think, by far probably the best build that anyone could ever conceivably construct. And it all really comes down to one thing and one thing only. You need crit rate and combo in your gear. 99.9% of it. Now, there is some people that'll trade a little bit of their combo stats for regen, and that's okay, but I'm not a big fan of it. And in my case, what I've done is I've actually got, so one of the things that is a little deceptive, right, is you can either go 10% crit or you can go 10% combo. Now, here you'll notice I've got global combo damage, bits and pieces. Now, like here, this is Horus. Yeah, okay, obviously not as good. But, again, running the rates here, you never know what you're going to get. But the main thing here is, on the enchants themselves, right? I can just as easily swap over for not one, not two, right? But basically we'll swap over the pieces here, and I can show you kind of what ends up actually happening, where instead of having a predominantly combo heavy bonus, we have a predominantly crit bonus. And what that does to your actual stats here is now, rather than say having a combo of like 30k, I have a combo of 28k, but instead of a 6,000 crit, I have a 7,400 crit. Now, one of the things that I can say for some certainty, right, if you're wanting to do one or the other, the advantage and disadvantage of one or the other is really going to be predominantly made in here. So one of the things you'll see is I've actually gone a little heavier into Bloodstained Blade, a little heavier into Blade Duo, a little bit in Eye Abyss, but then I'm really lackluster in the Immortal Spirit. I don't have anything in Wildlife Piercer. I'm bringing up Forgiving Horns, and I'm bringing up Guardian Star. And the reason for that is so you can bring up your core stats, because you're going to need that. The other thing is on your Class Awakening, you, in my opinion, really benefit when you even out these stats in some aspect, because if you bring up your global combo up so much, you eventually kind of need global attack. You wind up kind of needing basic attack, combo, and counter. You could just as easily, dump some of that in favor of crit damage, even if that's what you're after, right? You can also bring up like your other global stats, and there's nothing really, it's not going to hold you back. In my case, I've got 1,100, 1,300, and then 1,700% in attack bonus. So if I just wanted to balance it out a little better and say I wanted to give myself more HP, I mean, really about all you'd have to do here is, okay, we go to 31 here, and then we go up to 31 here, and then we'll bring this up to like 26 or 21. We'll bring this up to like 16, this up to 8, and then whatever left over go into combo damage. And we'll bring our combo damage down a considerable amount, which, yes, again, that's going to bring it down to, 1,000% from where it was. But by doing that, you've also brought up your HP by another 100%, which when you're tweaking these things, it's nice to be able to just kind of flip-flop, in terms of what you have in your Class Awakening. That's why it's so easy to just flip-flop it around, and it's not so big of a deal. But the main thing here is what you ultimately gain is in those areas. Now, in talents, I think you're really going to focus heavily on really two things. I think you're going to want crit damage bonus and combo damage. I think these are just a given, okay? Now, you don't have to necessarily invest like into, on the Fury tree, that is, basic attack. In fact, if I do anything, I'll reset this, and we'll just go ahead and quick upgrade and then max out our crit damage here. Don't dump really anything into basic attack. And we'll turn around and we'll grab what I think might be a little bit more advantageous, which is, obviously you want to grab your attack bonus, right? But rather than invest all of that damage that you would normally dump into like different stacks and stuff, what I find is that you can either go into combo healing, but I think what's actually a little bit more advantageous is you're not really going to want to focus heavily on like evasion. You don't want to focus too heavily on, obscene not so common stats. Like, if anything, eager momentum might even be a good choice, if you wanted to get some extra bonus stats. But if anything, really, you just want to grab that extra stack of HP and extra stack of attack that you already would have got if you had it maxed out. And then, like here, I had some voted into skill damage. Well, even that doesn't make as much sense. Like, you could probably sacrifice that and not sweat it, honestly, and not even go that direction with it, but rather you could actually, it's not that skill damage or anything in this particular tree is useless. It's just that, in my opinion, what you wind up actually doing is, you can focus on getting the other trees and get launch, for example, and tame beasts, or you can go for regen and you can gain like your different stats in here. But honestly, what I like is what you get with wound. And that's also happens to be both in the Sork tree, it also happens to be in the Tame Beast tree. Okay. And in both cases, wound is kind of an interesting stat to have. And even just having it 10% will actually work out to really help you out in PvP. I find that if I run a build with wound heavy on it, it typically will cover most of the problems that I run into. Now, like, we'll bring it up to like 15 here, and then we'll go over here and we'll bring this up to 15. And we're not going to like completely max it out because, again, we want to more than likely increase our attack bonus here. We want to grab our HP bonus. These are just what I call the fundamental traits of the core stats that you don't want to completely ignore these because these do actually add up. And again, I'm probably going to be a little short on the other stats, which is fine. I mean, it's not a big deal. I've got more feathers to deal with later anyway. And again, if you want to save some money, make sure you check out Aptoid, who's sponsoring today's video. Because again, if you want to save some money and you are actively wanting to get some of the newer items that are coming out, then that is honestly the way to go. I've been using it for a long ass time. It's, in my opinion, the way to go. That said, if, like, for example, I wanted to buy crystals or what have you, it's not terribly difficult. You just got to get the AppCoins wallet, and then you have to get the installed APK. They'll both be in the description below. But the process is relatively straightforward. Once you have the AppCoins wallet, you get your key, and from there it's pretty much a crypto wallet that you can then turn around and use to buy packs in the game. And again, I think the advantage of that is really, it speaks for itself when you're sitting here and you're playing the game. But the main thing here is so the current set of pals that I have is I've got basically these running. This to me is a pretty solid setup. And if you don't have these, I mean, yes, I know a lot of people will look at like, well, why not the octopus? Well, the part of the reason I don't is because you're only going to get 60% in core and combo. It's not really a multiplicative benefit. And if anything, I tend to kind of favor getting the deer just because the 15% defense bonus is going to be helpful. But you can run certain builds with the tipsy snail. And what you would do is, so like, basically you would run, say, like, instead of maybe Benny, which I like Benny. It's really hard for me to say otherwise. I would, if anything, take deer out and throw the snail in. And then what you do is you're on your skills, rather than, say, running Worldly Snare, which does proc every once in a while. And again, in PvP, Clone Strike isn't very helpful. So I'll just take Clone Strike out to show you. But like in PvE, it's helpful to have. But in PvP, what you would want to do is you can throw in something like Thorn Thicket. Okay. And the advantage of doing this in PvP is, so like if, for example, I go up against somebody, and again, I got to run some challenges here to kind of show you what I mean. But the idea is the Thorn Thicket basically slows them down so goddamn much. And because you got the snail on top of it, it's just a double whammy. It pretty much makes it work in your favor. Now, obviously, somebody that's 103.5 million power is probably going to be overkill here, but let's see if I can get to somebody that's not outrageously overpowered. But somebody that's maybe a little closer to what you would expect. That's a little better. So, like, I don't know, probably Shadow is probably not a bad idea. But the idea being is that with something like that, in PvP, it's not bad. If you're in PvE, you'll see that really what all that amounts to is, again, the reason I like to use Speedy Trial, but the Thorn Thicket really is because you can slow them down, and then with the amount of speed that you're firing off on the combos, it's a great combination. Now, obviously, I do have both the Castle Candelabrum, which gives you a stupid amount of HP back, and I'm also running a Cheetah Zero, which, as you guys all know, these are some of the most overpowered items in the game. But heck, you throw, the Alien Dimension on top of it, and it just makes a hell of whammy, man. Like, it's really not too bad, but it's incredibly bursty. Now, as far as gear pieces and everything aside, I mean, it works for me, but to be able to really go up against 80k plus might players, I have to kind of get most of the foundation, so to speak, built. And with that in mind, I have to get an internal set that is all combo crit rate. And that's how you get to where you're doing 100% crit, 100% combo, and then you just become a force to be reckoned with, because at that point, you're just ridiculously overpowered. Now, you may be thinking, well, what is the deal with this Avian? Why the heck are you using it? Again, the only reason is because of the mutated time saving. We're able to get a higher level faster, which for all intensive purposes, when I'm getting about 20% out of combo, I've got 195 coming off a rage bonus and some coming on a combo. It's by no means the best Avian here, but it's got enough passives that make this worthwhile. And what I usually would recommend you do in this case is you want to get the affixes that are ultimately going to give you the best for your buck. So what you do is you go out in favor of looking at for other players that are also running a Plume Monarch build that have favorable talents. Typically what I like to do is take a lower grade Avian, like the Aggressive Lemon, for example, and mix it with a higher rare Avian, because what you'll end up doing in the breed combo, you'll see that you'll more than likely hit the Aggressive Lemon, but you got a 0.94% chance for all these other ones. Now, you may notice that we have some new Avians in this list, and you may be wondering, what are they? And yeah, I can kind of give you an idea of a sneak peek of what they are, but as you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different Avians in here. So there are some Avians that you can breed for now. And you can run different, basically you can run different chances of running them. Now, like for example, if I took this one, matched it with a Firefly, you'll notice that, in the odds of it happening goes up by a fairly noticeable number. It's up by 2%. The odds of it are still fairly high compared to if I would have taken, like, say, the Master Duck, for example, and mixed another duck with it. You'll see that the odds of, say, if you had that duck, for example, you're 100% going to hit the duck. But if I mix it with, like, the Moonlight Spirit, you'll notice that it goes from being 2% to 4%. So if you have the amazing duck, then you have a very good chance of running. So what I've been doing is I've been breeding these astronaut bee ducks so that I can increase the odds of actually getting a favorable Avian. And I'm not particularly worried about the affixes right now, because you can train out the affixes that you don't want later on anyway. Now, of course, you could do this from the get-go, but, like, if you're ultimately wanting to get the new Avians, guys, that is your best buck, I think, if you want to get it out. And that said, that is pretty much my Plume Monarch build at the moment. And it's working fairly well, and of course, it's very versatile as far as, like, what you can do in even in challenge. Like right now, we'll see how well we're doing, but we're in Revelation 7 thereabouts, so we're not doing bad. I mean, this is, frankly, it's very easy to swap around and move around as needed. Of course, if you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.